Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the J1 Summer Work Travel U.S. Embassy Outreach and Information Session. We are a few minutes late, but we're going to start now. My name is Camille Reed. I'm the Public Relations Officer here at Mona. I'm going to start by introducing members of the platform. I would like to welcome our campus registrar, Dr. Donovan Stanberry, who is to my direct left. I would also like to introduce officials from the U.S. Embassy. We have Mrs. Nicolette Stewart Gray. She's from the Criminal Fraud Investigation Unit. And Mr. Alfie Gonzalez, who's also from that unit. He's the Vice Consul. They will be answering your questions today. I'd like to also welcome the persons joining us by video call from the Western Jamaica campus. Welcome. And also students joining us on YouTube on MonaMedia. For those who intend to pose questions, please note that you can do this on YouTube by typing your questions into the chat panel, and it will be read out here. And for the persons joining us from WJC, they can ask the questions directly on the video, the screens that we have here. So without further ado, I'm going to invite the campus registrar. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to invite the campus registrar to begin the event.
Thank you very much, Camille. Officials from the United States Embassy, our students, and friends joining us from WJC and elsewhere by YouTube. Let me take this opportunity to welcome you to this information session hosted by the Embassy of the United States in relation to the J1 Summer Work and Travel Program. I know many of our students, and some repeatedly, have engaged this program with tremendous benefit to yourselves in terms of working monies in the United States to help with your tuition. So it's a very important program because we all recognize that there are financial challenges, but many of our students have not allowed these challenges to stand in their way. They have sought to seek employment through this program, and we are eternally grateful to the Embassy of the United States for facilitating our students over the many years of this program. But unfortunately, like every good thing, and those who know the story of the Garden of Eden, the Bible says everything was perfect until one day a serpent showed up. As with every good thing, there are always forces that seek to corrupt and contaminate something that is good. And so we have had reports in recent times of fraudulent documentation from the university being tendered to the U.S. Embassy by students who are accessing this program. That is not good, and from the university we pledge to work with our partners from the U.S. Embassy to ensure that where those practices surface, we arrest the practice and eliminate it so that the good name and the reputation of this program is not tarnished. So let me use the opportunity once again to welcome you and particularly to thank our partners from the U.S. Embassy. Thank you very much.
Let me also take this opportunity to welcome two other persons from the U.S. Embassy, Ms. Claire Polk from the Fraud Prevention Office and Ms. LaFane Wong from the a representative from the non-immigrant section. So we're going to start now with Mr. Gonzalez, so let us welcome him.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to this event. We're really excited about this. We haven't been out here for a while, and we have a few goals here. We want to get the word out about the summer work travel program so you guys understand exactly how it works. We want to make sure you understand what the qualification requirements are for the program and how not to get in trouble and how not to get duped yourselves. Again, thank you to the university for hosting us for this event. And so we'll begin with the J1. So, there's one thing about the J1 that I think is important to note is it's a cultural exchange program. It's very broad, right? We're here to talk about summer work and travel, but that's one aspect of the J, and I kind of want to give you all a sense of. You're right. All right. How's that? Much better. All right. Now the people online can hear me as well. So I was saying the idea of the summer work and travel is a cultural exchange. Now, the registrar mentioned one of the benefits of summer work and travel, which is earning a little extra money to help pay for school. But I'd submit to you that there's another benefit that's potentially greater, and it's that aspect of cultural exchange where you have exposure to U.S. culture, exposure to U.S. business practices, and your counterparts in the U.S. gain the benefit of that exposure from you all who participate in the program. So just wanted to give that plug. So what is the J1, right? We sort of went over that now. It's a work and study based exchange visitor program. Now, you have to be enrolled full-time in a classroom-based academic institution outside the U.S. The University of the West Indies obviously meets that qualification. However, if you are in an online program, it does not qualify for the J1 visa. For more detailed information on the J1, I would point you to the State Department's website. You go to j1visa.state.gov, and that'll give you all kinds of detailed information on the program. Again, that's j1visa.state.gov. Pop quiz, we're in school, right? Which country had the most summer work travel participants in 2018? Who says China? Raise your hands. Anybody? No? Turkey? Dominican Republic? No. Jamaica. Jamaica had the most participants in the summer work travel program last year and was in the top 5 in the prior 2 years. You can see from our own statistics from the embassy, these are the issuances in the last 3 years. We've seen a significant increase in the last year, and that's part of the reason why we're here doing outreach to make sure this program continues to be successful. Now, sorry. So here's how the appointment process works, just sort of the nuts and bolts of it. Step 1, arrive no more than 15 minutes before your interview. This is important, unless you really like standing on Old Hope Road, twiddling your thumbs. 15 minutes before, it's for security reasons as well. You have an appointment time, stick to it. You'll queue for security, you'll have your fingerprints taken, and then finally you'll be interviewed by a consular officer. When you come in, please don't bring any large items, no cell phones, no sealed envelopes, no food and beverages. We try to get you in and out as quickly as possible, but this helps us in the security screening process as well. All right, qualifications. These are the more specific requirements to participate in summer work and travel. So you need to be able to speak English, not an issue here. But you must be a credible student actively pursuing a degree or other full-time course of study at an accredited classroom-based college or university. This is a bit more of a sticking point. Again, as I said before, it cannot be an online program. You cannot be a part-time student. You must have successfully completed at least one semester or the equivalent, and you have to be pre-placed in a job prior to entry. Again, and you're going to hear this echoed multiple times throughout this presentation and from the other speakers. Do not bring falsified documents. If you do, you risk becoming permanently ineligible to get a visa. You could be charged criminally here in Jamaica. And I would urge you to consider the fact that being ineligible for a U.S. visa permanently, as this is, as it could result if you do present false documents, will affect your career long term. You know, and it could affect your career 10 years from now. Your employer wants to send you for a training, can't go, I'm permanently ineligible for a visa. A summer job is just not worth that. And here's an example, you can read it for yourselves, of a recent situation where someone was caught with fraudulent documents and the case was taken to court. Okay. Now, before I get into approved, disapproved, I just want to mention the interview itself. If you haven't interviewed for a visa before, will probably take less than 3 minutes. Please understand that the officer, it's not just that interview. They're looking at your application materials. They're looking at other information they have, and they're considering all that information, the totality of all that information, and reaching their decision. The visa's approved. They'll hold on to your passport, and you'll get the passport back typically within about a week. The courier service will be in contact with you for that. You can travel within 30 days of the start date on the DS 2019, which is the form that will be issued to you before you go to the embassy, which authorizes you to apply for a J1 visa. If the case is refused, the officer will briefly explain the reason and provide you with a written document which further explains the reasons for the denial. While you may reapply, you certainly are entitled to reapply. Be sure that you do meet those qualification requirements that discussed earlier and that you'll see on the website. Just making multiple applications with the identical information will not necessarily improve your chances of being issued a visa. The question is whether you qualify or not. Now, a very small number of applicants will have their cases put in an administrative processing situation where you may not get a lot of detail. The answer may not be very satisfying to you, but the case requires further work on our end. It means we can't issue or refuse at the moment, necessarily. Listen to the officer. They'll give you the explanation for the purpose of that processing. Sometimes it'll take 2 days, sometimes it could take 2 months, typically resolved within 30 to 60 days. Now, why am I saying that? Don't apply 2 days before you're scheduled to start work. Go early. We get very busy in the spring, and if you wait till the last minute, you could be delayed in getting to your job. This website up here is useful once the application is in process, so you can get your case status there. Okay. On-time departure. This is an issue that we've experienced in the past, where individuals will travel on their J1 visa and they won't leave in a timely fashion. And I think in some of those cases, it's on purpose. They intended to do it, maybe not. And in other cases, they may not understand. So when you enter the U.S., you'll be given an admission stamp in your passport. That'll have a date certain, which is your admit until date. Okay. You may also be given a paper form, although that's less prevalent. It's not the visa expiration date necessarily. The admission date on that stamp controls how long you can be in the United States, okay? Given that, okay, that's sort of the baseline. However, if school starts up again before that date, you need to be back in time for the start of classes. You can find more information at cbp.gov/travel/international visitors. Another website you could look for, and this is also a CBP website, if you're confused about your admit until date, you can go to i94.cbp.dhs.gov. And if you didn't catch that, you can just Google I-94. And that's also a Customs and Border Protection website. Okay, I guess we have another test. So you've just gone through the summer work travel program, you worked, you had a good time, time to start planning your return to Jamaica. The validity date on the visa says May 5th through September 9th. The admit until date on the I-94, September 1st, and the classes start on the 5th. When do you gotta be back? Who says September 5th? Apparently everyone was listening. So September 1st, you'd have to be back because that admit until date controls. All right, let's flip the scenario a little bit. The admit until date says September 7th, okay? Classes start on September 1st. When do you need to be back? September 1st. Okay, this is very important. If you don't follow these guidelines, it could affect your future ability to get a visa. So we want to make sure everyone understands these rules and understands the parameters of their admission on a J. Okay. Another issue that's very important for us, many of you will be going to the U.S. for your first time, possibly working abroad for the first time, or even working for the first time. We want to make sure that you understand what your rights are. So true or false, my employer can deduct the cost of uniforms, et cetera, from the paycheck. No, may not. Same answer for the second point. You're not restricted in your ability to leave housing during non-working hours. Okay. If you are issued a visa, a J-1 visa, you will receive this pamphlet. It's known as the William Wilberforce pamphlet. It explains in detail what your rights are as a worker in the U.S. and basically these are the rights covered in that pamphlet. If you have any questions about those rights, if you think your employer is not treating you fairly, or there's any abuses going on, you can contact the phone numbers on that pamphlet and they'll help you out. In addition, you can call the police. They will also help you out. There's no immigration consequence to taking these actions, and we encourage you to do so. Here's our contact information. You have the embassy website, you have the email address for non-immigrant visas. We try to respond as quickly as possible. If you think there's a fraud issue that you want to bring to our attention, please feel free to email kingstonfpu@state.gov and follow us on social media. All right, we'll hold off the questions until we're all done speaking. I'm going to put this up there in case anyone is willing to fill out a survey. There's the website link, and you have the QR code. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over the mic to my colleague, Nicolette.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicolette Stewart-Gray. I am with the U.S. Embassy as the criminal fraud investigator. In my position, I liaise with the Jamaica Constabulary Force personnels who are actually situated inside the embassy. Therefore, if you come to the U.S. Embassy with a fraudulent document, you were warned. you will be arrested. This is one of the reasons why we're here today as an outreach. We're asking you, we're pleading to you, give yourself a chance to establish yourself, because whatever transpires when you're arrested, you will end up with a criminal record and you will be fingerprinted. Sorry. All right, I don't want to stay between you and your questions, so I'll quickly go through just the basics. The charges are forgery and uttering forged documents, and the sentence is a maximum of 2 years imprisonment at hard labor or a fine of up to $200,000, as well as you will be fingerprinted. We have had situations like that this year. I am sure persons who have been reading would have seen it in the press as well. So we're asking you, please, to desist for those persons who feel that that is the only way out, which is why my colleague Gonzalez was basically giving you all the necessary information so that the placement officer, as well as the agents, the information that they provide, everything will basically be the same. So no one can draw you aside telling you that you need to amend your transcript for it to read 2 point, whatever it is, right? So this is your opportunity to ask questions. Mr. Gonzalez will answer the questions. If it's a law enforcement question, I'll try also to assist, because I'm really in the position of my JCF colleague who is unavailable today. Okay? All right. All right, so I guess we'll start answering questions. No?
So for people who weren't here in the beginning, there's a chat box on YouTube where persons can post questions. There are I see 2 microphones in the middle there for persons to ask questions in this room. Persons at the Western Jamaica campus, just indicate that you want to ask a question and do so on the video. So don't all come at me at once. Just indicate, well, if you have a specific question for a specific person, but either of the representatives can answer the question. So.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your presentation. The question is...
Hello.
First question, what if you were refused a visitor's visa within the period before you came for your work and travel permit?
Okay, so it would depend on the basis for that refusal. I'm not going to speak to any individual case, I cannot do that, but in a typical visitor visa refusal, it would be under Section 214B of the Immigration and Nationality Act. You're given a green sheet that explains that law. That is not a permanent ineligibility. You're free to reapply, and if you qualify on that subsequent application, then you can be issued a visa. There's no time limit as to when you can apply.
Thank you. And the second question is, what if you are being filed for? Would you recommend the person to participate in the J1 summer work and travel program?
Filed for an immigrant visa?
Yes.
Okay. Again, that's getting specific. There's nothing that prevents you from making that application. Your case will be evaluated based on the facts of the individual case, and depending on the circumstances of the individual case, you'll either be issued or not. There's nothing that prevents you from applying.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to know if there is an age limit to applying for the J1.
No, there's no age limit for applying for a J1 visa. You have to meet the qualification standards, full-time student, etc.
Okay, and question about the full-time status. What if, why? I'd like to know why, if suppose I'm registered as part-time, as a part-time student, but I come to classes like a full-time student, if you understand.
I'm not sure I understand. If you're registered part-time, then you're part-time.
No, but okay, why then are we not allowed?
So, the short answer is because that's what the law is. The program is designed as a cultural exchange for full-time students. It's not a temporary worker program like the H-2B or the H-2A. Those would be the appropriate visas for a temporary worker absent the school connection, the educational and cultural component.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for coming. Hi. Quick
Hello.
question. If you're a third-year student, are you still eligible to participate in the program? Because it said something about still being enrolled. So.
Yes, sir, that is correct. So if you're in your final year, you can participate in the school break immediately after that final year. So if you graduate in the spring, you can go in the summer.
Okay, great. Cool.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. I was not here for the presentation, but I came.
Okay, I'll redo the whole thing. No, I was teasing. Go ahead.
But I'm just here to ask one specific question. All right. So last summer, I was in a bit of a predicament. So I went on work and travel, and while I was there, each month we are asked to do a sign-in. So to make sure that we don't run off into US, make sure that we are where we're supposed to be. All right, now in the first month, I signed in with my friends to the point where they didn't even know what to do, and I assisted them. And then everything was okay until the second month. I got an email saying that I should leave the country because on their system it shows that I'm a no-show. And then when I called the sponsors, they're telling me that on their system it is showing that I am a no-show and it's as if I'm not where I'm supposed to be. The recruiters in Jamaica have a person in America to speak to whenever we have issues. When I spoke to her, it's as if she doesn't believe me and I'm not where I'm supposed to be and that she's not going to assist me. And in the email, the same time I'm finding about what is happening, at the same time they're telling me that I should leave the country and so forth. But I didn't leave because I was where I'm supposed to be and I'm there working. I spoke to my boss and his second, and they were ready to vouch for me to say that I am there and I'm working, I'm living there where I'm working, and that I'm not like doing anything I'm not supposed to be doing. And then when I'm speaking to the sponsor, they're saying that it's already done, nothing can be done about it. And I was asking like, it's on a computer, so couldn't it be a situation where I send you even my pay stubs to show you that I am in Florida where I'm supposed to be working and nothing happened, no one assisted me. And they were saying that even the recruiters in Jamaica tried to reach out to me and no one reached out to me, so the same time
Okay, let me cut in because
I'm not done yet, please.
I cannot speak to a specific individualized case. I'm going to give you some general advice that I think could help you, and it could help the crowd in general. So I'm sorry you've had that experience, first of all. And this was something I meant to bring up in the presentation. If your SEVIS is terminated, that's right, the rule is you have to leave immediately. You don't have that 30-day grace period. Now, it sounds like you've taken the right steps, following up with the sponsor, following up with the agent. You have the contact information for Kingston NIV, Kingston FPU, the Wilberforce pamphlet. Call there if you think there's something incorrect being done. However, if your SEVIS is terminated and you're notified that your SEVIS is terminated, you're obliged to leave the U.S. There's no grace period. There's no, oh, but I was actually still working. You could end up having an issue with that. I can't speak to the details of your situation until I have an application in front of me from you if you happen to go to my window.
Yeah,
Does that help?
all right. Let me say the rest of, like, the next part to it, and then...
All right, sure, quickly, please.
All right. So, I came back to Jamaica. I left before the last date we were supposed to leave. I came back before because of school, and then in this year early, I went for my visiting visa just to see if the no-show status would affect me, and then it did affect me. I didn't get it, and I was told that I have to contact persons abroad and the same sponsors and everybody else, and I really don't know what to do now.
I understand. I cannot speak to your individualized case in this context. Thank you. I need to go on to the next question, please.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Okay, we have a question from the YouTube viewers, and they're asking that if you are being filed for, if they can still participate in the program.
I answered that question a few minutes ago.
Oh, you did?
So the answer is it depends, and I know that's not satisfying, but if you meet the qualifications for the visa and you apply and the consular officer believes you overcome the immigrant intent presumption under Section 214B, you can be issued a visa. There's nothing that prevents you from applying from the J1.
Okay, thank you. And another question, they'd like to know if he's an engineering student, if he can get a bartending job.
He's a what?
Engineering student.
Oh, so for summer work and travel, the occupation's not related to what you're studying.
Okay, thank you.
It's not like optional practical training when you're studying in the U.S. It's another show for another day.
And one more question.
Sure.
A person would like to find out the total cost for the program.
I'm sorry?
The total cost for the program.
That's going to depend on the individual case. I can't answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. So I just want to know if after suppose to get rejected from the whole program, will I get my money back? Is it refundable?
Which money?
The J1 visa.
That's the SEVIS fee, the visa application fee?
Yeah.
No.
Good afternoon. I have a question. So
Yes?
if I have a visa, I've never traveled on it though, but I have a visa, and I apply for the J1 program, would it affect me getting the J1 visa?
If you had a tourist visa, a B1, B2?
Yes, I have a B1 travel visa. If it affects me
No,
getting the J1?
not necessarily, no.
Okay.
It'll depend. It just depends. Have you used it? Why? How have you used it? I can't answer the... Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Question here. If you already participated in the program before, however you're changing your career, doing another first degree, would you be still eligible for the program?
Sorry, I'm not sure. I didn't hear your rule. I think what you're asking is if you can participate in multiple years? Yes.
No, I'm saying I participated 3 years before.
Okay.
I'm doing another degree as a full-time student. Will I be still eligible?
You could be still eligible if you meet all the other requirements.
Okay, thank you.
I have two questions. When you are given the J1 visa, there's something at the bottom that says 2-year rule does not apply.
That's right.
What is that 2-year rule?
Okay. Right. So that it's Section 212E of the Immigration and Nationality Act. It's not going to affect any of you here. It's based on. The short answer is there are certain skill categories that if your program of study were in those categories and you were to participate in certain other J programs, you have to come back to Jamaica for 2 years before returning to the U.S. in HL status or as a permanent resident. But again, it doesn't affect summer work and travel. It doesn't apply. It affects teachers, a few other categories.
Okay. All right, and the second question, is there like a limit, like how can I apply every year? Like, say I'm at school for 5 years, can I go for 5 summers?
Are you in a master's program?
No.
It'd be hard to be a full-time student for 5 years and not graduate. So maybe.
Med students are here for that long.
Entirely possible. You can change majors. It'll depend on the individual circumstances of the case.
But there's no limit, like you won't tell me that, okay, you were here 3 years before, so.
There's no hard limit on that. It's a matter of whether you qualify. Do you still qualify as a bona fide student?
Okay.
Are you registered for classes but never attending? I mean, that's...
All right, another question from online. Someone would like to know if there is a GPA requirement.
There is no GPA requirement. There is a requirement that you be a bona fide student. So that sort of goes with what I just said. I mean, are you a bona fide university student?
Okay, and also they'd like to know if they are a master's student, if they are eligible for the program.
Someone in a master's program? Yeah, they would, as long as they meet all the other requirements of the category.
Thank you.
Anybody?
All right. So before applying for the J1 visa, you indicated that we must be pre-accepted in a job.
That's right.
Is there any specific documents you need to carry with you to that interview?
So the only documents you're absolutely required to have are the DS 2019 and your passport. Okay? It's helpful to us if you have certain other documents, like your, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. That's better.
All right, so it's helpful if you have certain other documents, your official transcript, a job letter, things like that, but it's not absolutely necessary. Your case will be evaluated based on the facts presented at that interview. One of those facts that may be considered is a transcript, for example.
And it's not necessary for you to go through us agent here in Jamaica?
You need a sponsor in the U.S.
In the U.S.
Which you can find the list of sponsors on that website that I mentioned at the beginning, J1.
Yeah.
The one I said, J1 visas.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I would like to know if at the embassy, the consulates consider the camp program being a consular or a support staff, just the same as a work and travel student, being that one is more confined and one is more open.
I'm not sure what you mean by confined or open. They're different categories. They have different requirements.
As in the camp program, you go to a camp and you stay on that camp with your sponsors and your employers until it's time to leave. And you have the option of being a counselor, which does not require you to be a full-time student, whilst the work and travel program. Yes. So
yeah, they have very different requirements. And if you go to the website, it explains what's required for a camp counselor, what's required for summer work and travel. They're just very different. I know they're both J1, but there's also a J1 for PhD researchers and medical doctors. There are numerous categories of J1. There's no relationship between camp counselor and summer work and travel.
Okay, because from my experience, it seemed as if it was interviewed for the same thing at the embassy. Secondly, I want to know what's the relationship with the embassy and the agencies, as in there would be a vetting process for students in order to qualify at the agencies. However, after going through the vetting process, GPA over 2.0, which is required, and stuff like that, students would also be denied. Secondly, our school, the University of the West Indies, would have sent out an email in the summer after the whole issue went down, stating that there isn't a GPA requirement. I would like for you to clarify whether or not, because in my time doing it, there was in fact a GPA requirement, and that I find to be a discrepancy, and it's leading people astray.
So I'm very happy to answer that question. I'm glad you asked it. Categorically, there is not a GPA requirement. Any agent who says so is certainly not doing it on behalf of the U.S. government. We don't have established relationships with the agencies. Like I said, there are sponsors, and those are listed on the State Department website. Those are approved, vetted by the State Department. We have no relationship with the agencies. Again, there is not a GPA requirement. However, and the message sent by the university is absolutely correct. However, you need to establish you are a bona fide student. One of the many factors we would consider is potentially grade point average, etc.
The GPA requirement is also enlisted on the U.S. Embassy's website, 2.0. It's there.
I haven't seen that.
It is there. It is there.
We'll double check that. I think that's right.
Hello. Would you be able to give us some clarity on what is considered as full-time and what is considered as part-time? For this past program year, we are aware that students had status letters that said they were full-time, but then they were advised by the embassy that they were not full-time based on the amount of courses or modules or credits that they were doing. So could you provide some clarity on what you guys consider to be full-time?
Sure. And again, this may not be satisfying. We're looking at the totality of the circumstances.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you very clearly.
We are looking at the totality of the circumstances, whether the individual applicant is a bona fide student. Part of that, whether they're full-time, that sort of feeds into that analysis. How many courses are they taking? How many credit hours? What's the course load over the whole year? You know, if you have someone that's taking 3 credit hours in the fall and 5 credits in the spring, for example, probably not full-time, right? But I can't tell you, oh, it's X credit hours you need to have. We're looking at the big picture to determine whether they are full-time students or whether they are working and are part-time students, or whether they're not students at all and have fraudulent documents. But I realize that's another issue.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate what you just said. So on behalf of the United States Embassy, you're saying that you guys do not have a specific criteria in terms of the amount of courses, the amount of credits, but you're looking on a holistic picture of what you would consider a full-time student to be. Is that what I just want to be sure.
Yeah, I think it's fair. We're looking at a holistic picture and that there isn't a hard GPA number or a hard credit hour number. We're looking at the whole picture.
Okay, so you're looking at the GPA as well.
We look at all the facts in front of us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Is the program only restricted to people from Jamaica and Caribbean as a whole, or if I'm an international student, I can also apply to it?
Yes, international students would be, I mean, you saw the list. It's not just Jamaica that sends students.
Yes,
Sir?
I have a question. So, if for whatever reason, whether or not you did commit a crime or something small as failing to miss your check-in, your service get terminated, how would that be reflected and what implication would that have for you reapplying for the program?
Sir, the implication is that you had your service terminated, and it will depend on why it was terminated, what happened around it. It could be something very innocent and very simple that has no effect on visa eligibility. It could be something that leads to a permanent ineligibility. It depends. Well, you know, why was the person arrested? Why were they terminated? Did they just leave because they had to come home to help a sick family member? It could run the gamut from A to Z. I can't answer the question. Thank you. Miss?
Hi, good afternoon. I was wondering, I wanted to ask for clarification what does the yellow slip mean?
I'm sorry?
The yellow slip.
Oh, sure. Right. So the yellow slip, and it explains it in detail, but it's a refusal under 214B for failure to meet the requirements of the visa rather than for failing to overcome the presumption of immigrant intent. In other words, if you had a visitor visa, it wasn't canceled.
Yeah, it was canceled.
Then you didn't get the yellow slip. Or it was mistakenly given to you. It should have been the green slip.
Oh.
One more question, because I think we're running out of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Since the beginning of the year, students have been advised of a 3-year cap from certain local agencies. However, there has been one that advised us that the CIEE sponsor in the US does not follow the 3-year cap. So I was just wondering if a student who has already participated 3 times in the summer work and travel program, if they should try to apply again, would the previous 3 years be considered in, would it be like considered in your decision to grant the visa?
Well, I mean, prior participation would be considered. It's just a matter of, was that, did the person actually participate in the program? How did they participate? Was their SEVIS terminated? Those factors would all be considered. But sure, I mean, it'll be considered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think we're done. You want to do another couple more questions? Okay. All right, let's see. Well, let's alternate, huh? We'll go over here.
Okay, I will go ahead. So you spoke about the sponsors who are on the government website for the embassy, right? So I did an analysis. I've contacted 80% of them because I realized the prices for agencies in Jamaica has risen approximately 60% thereabout. So I went and did an analysis. Those sponsors who are registered with the Department of State, they are forcing us to go through a local agency. So there's no solution. We have to go to a local agency and pay astronomical prices.
Okay. I don't know about those prices. If you'd share that information with us to the Kingston FPU email address, we'd be happy to take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. So for final year students, do we still have the grace period of 30 days after the visa expiration date?
Yes. If your SEVIS is not terminated, you have a 30-day grace period. Again, be back by the time classes are supposed to start.
But I would be a
right,
final
I know
year
you're a final
student.
student. There's no classes, right? So, yeah, I think for final year students, you're still supposed to be back in time for the start of regular classes. It's just what the law is. We good? One more question?
Yes. We have someone online who'd like to know if they are a student at Norman Manley Law School, if they will be eligible for the program, taking into consideration that the transcript will be given at the end of the school year.
So as I said before, the transcript is not an absolute requirement. So they could be considered eligible. It'll depend on all the factors. Are they a full-time student? And that can be determined through through a status letter as well as through the interview of the applicant. I practiced law for 15 years, so I can tell if someone's studying law.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Sure, why not?
Why are persons given specific reasons why they're refused instead of a general statement to say you were refused because you did not meet requirements? But what requirements did you not meet?
The basis for the refusal should be given to you at the time of the interview.
Okay, so I was refused summer work and travel visa, the J1 visa, but I was not given a reason why I was refused. It was just a general statement to say you did not meet requirements.
Well, that's what the paper says, yes.
But what requirements? Because it did not say which it was.
I wasn't part of that interview, so I can't comment on it. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Okay, this is really the last one. Please.
Are you aware of the J1 Financial International?
I'm sorry?
Are you aware of J1 Financer International?
I can't hear you.
J1 Financial, whatever, International
I have not, I'm not familiar with that.
is a loan agency.
I'm not familiar with them.
You're not?
No. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Can persons ask questions on the web? Is there anywhere they can ask questions after this event?
Let me check with Claire, because she's sort of running this.
Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, online and in this room, for joining us at this outreach and information session hosted by the United States Embassy and the UWI.
You can send it to the Kingston NIV email address that was on the slideshow. You can send questions there. I'll give it to you right now.
If you have further questions, please listen for this email address. The email address for any further questions after this event is Kingston, N as in Nancy, I, V as in Victor. So that's Kingston, NIV @state.gov. Both of them? Both of them? Just one? Just this one?
No, because this one is for like specific product, like what that other gentleman was saying. Either way, we all talk to each other.
Is it case sensitive?
No.
Okay, so that's Kingston, NIV, that's one word, @state.gov. Again, thank you all for joining us.